This is the fourth time we're trying. But I think that's reflective of where we're at in life right
Well, it's because we don't have employees doing it for us. That's
right.
the problem.
That's right. Nothing's going to be right the first time you do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And we haven't done anything yet. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't done jack shit. So it's going to suck the first time and the fourth time and the 10th time. But when we get to the 12th time, it's going to start to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we only have 8 more times to turn this on before we can get some usable goddamn footage.
Facts. So true. So what have we been up to this week? What are we working on?
This week in particular,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler introduced us to a podcast series, Modern Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what inspired us to start podcasting. Because in that podcast, they're millionaires, they've made it.
Yeah.
Right? And they are understanding of the fact that they're on the highest tier.
Yeah.
And that when they speak, some people view it as being spoken down to or as unfair because they are already millionaires and so they have it easy. And they spoke about how they wished they had started recording earlier,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how they would have loved to seen podcasts from Jeff Bezos in the basement in 1997 when Amazon was starting, or Elon Musk with PayPal, right?
Yeah.
And the whole point of their podcast is to teach lessons to their listeners so that we don't have to make those same mistakes. We can learn from their stories.
Yeah.
And so part of learning on my half from those stories is starting the podcast now while we're fucking jack shit nobodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have
Here
a lot of
in
learning to do.
a shitty duplex with terrible maintenance issues and a few posters thrown on the wall with a couple of cats to share it with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's an honest start. It's ain't much, but it's honest work.
I think there's value in that though. There's value in knowing where we're going and having enough faith in it to know that this shitty podcast with a single camera on a tripod is going somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like a Joe Rogan, this is what we're going to be doing, so we're going to get really good at podcasting. Because if that were the case, this podcast would already have a studio. Right. It's we're going to live our entire life, right? But the one way that we're going to record and keep ourselves honest is to record a podcast once a week.
Yep.
And if other people can glean value from that, great. But at the very least, it's a self-check for us.
Right. For sure. And why do you think we're built so different than people who don't want to start a podcast to document their life or don't have these big business aspirations and stuff like that? Like, what are a couple key things that differentiate us from other people who don't have those aspirations? Do you think it's fear of failing? Do you think it's the comfort of the 9-to-5? Do you think it's just that they don't have like the bandwidth to have the same mindset or same dreams? What do you think is like the fundamental core of why we approach things differently?
Are you asking why we're built different?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's true. How many other people are starting a podcast to document their growth as entrepreneurs? You know,
I think I have the answer, but I think it sounds a little sadistic. And I think the answer is that we like to work, right? It's not that we like the work.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I fucking hated working on a lot of the SAE shit we did. Right?
Yeah, I know.
What's easier, telling the team we're not going to competition or filling out these fucking forms with this deadline,
true.
right? But we did it because we enjoyed doing it together, and that what we enjoy doing is working. What we enjoy doing is progressing.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are very happy with the work they do, but not with the act of working.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? What's your take?
I think that a lot of people I think that through middle school and high school and college, I was thinking about this the other day, and I think that you're trained to be an employee. So the only tunnel that you see down is the employee tunnel. And I think that's why it's common for people who don't necessarily go to college or don't even finish high school to like really branch out and try something different and new. And if they fail, they fail. But there are those examples of people who don't fail and they become extremely successful, much more successful than a lot of people who go through the college channel or the master's degree channel. And so I think mentally you're trained from a very young age to just think a certain way, and that's how life is. And a lot of the times your parents live that way, so then they raise you in the same manner too. But I think that great people still thrive out of that, and I think that we're a great example of that. Like neither of our parents are entrepreneurs. You know, we didn't grow up, having this like special honors school that taught you how to build businesses or anything like that. Like, we just put our nose to the grindstone and figured things out and used our resources and worked really hard at it and had that grit to persevere.
If anything, we grew up at a deficit.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, my whole life, I was taught, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job.
Yeah.
That's what you do, right? Yeah. That's what my dad did. It's what my mom did. Yeah. They were successful in their families because nobody in their families was college educated. No one had a stable job. So that was their goals, and they imparted those goals onto me, right? And so growing up, I always thought, I want the lavish lifestyle. I want a lot of money. I want to live comfortably, right? And as a kid, when you look at that, you see fancy cars, Epstein Island, helicopters, cool shit.
Right.
But as an adult, you really realize that the fancy things you can buy come secondary to your time. Because being stuck in the 9-to-5, a kid doesn't understand. They go to school, it's not the same. But when you become an adult and you become trapped in that, it really hurts. And chasing that level of success means you get your time back, right? And when I was a kid growing up, I remember thinking, oh, okay, well, if I become an engineer, then I'll make enough money to live. If I make enough money to live, I can become a good engineer and be promoted. And eventually I can become CEO and I'll own the company and I'll have millions, like everybody else who owns companies and has millions. And I actually look down on businessmen and entrepreneurs. My mom always said, if you fail engineering, then you're going to go to business school. And that's where all the degenerates and dejects go. If you can't cut it in engineering, you go to business school, right? I had a friend in high school who went to law school and he failed out of law school. And sure enough, I was like, well, what are you going to do now? And he was like, I'm going to do a business degree. And I just kicked him, right? Because I was like, you're a nobody now. Congrats. Your next step is dropping out, which he did. He dropped out of business school and then he went to Domino's, worked as a Domino's delivery driver. And I made fun of him for that because who fails out of business school, right? But that's such a narrow-minded, jaded way of thinking that I had been programmed to think by my parents. And it's so inspirational to me to know that despite the current, which I actively fight with my parents daily, right?
Yeah.
Especially still fucking living with them, that, you know, this isn't right. You're being stupid. You canceled your 401k. What the fuck? What are you doing? I don't understand you. Like the active onslaught of unfaith, the fact that we're still able to like stand in that current and walk against it is really, really impressive to me.
Yeah. I think that's, you know, going off of that too, the hardest thing about going to the 9-to-5 every day is that I'm stuck with people, you know, I work at Kennedy Space Center, so I'm stuck with a lot of legacy people who have been there for 20, 30, 40 years.
My dad.
Yeah, exactly. And they have this super narrow mindset of just do your job, you'll progress, like you'll make more money. And it's like, you can, I think we did the math the other day. But we calculated out if you got a 3% raise every single year for the next 40 years, how much would you have after taxes are taken out based off of like 2023 tax filings? And it was like 3.5 million or something around that range. And that's like one Ferrari F40, or like a tenth of a McLaren F1.
You know, I was listening to another Alex Hormozy podcast today, right? Because Tyler sent us the link to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right? But Modern Wisdom is on Spotify.
Yep.
So I went to Spotify and I started watching, because it shows you which ones you've already watched. It's easier to keep track of, right? And I don't have to have YouTube open on my phone.
Yeah.
In one of his podcasts, he was talking about how his goals were to make more money than his dad, and then make more money than his dad has ever made, and then make more money than his dad will ever make in his entire life.
Right? Yeah.
And he said that he lost sight of that goal once he started making what he called decent money, which was $1.5 million a month.
Wow.
So to speak to that 3.6 million in a lifetime or something, that's 3 months to what Alex Hormozy considers to be decent money. Right. And if he considers that to be decent money at 32 years old, right, that's 9 years away for us, right? He didn't start his first business until he was 23, and we're 23, right? So like 9 years down the line, we're looking at $1.5 million a month is chump change, right?
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast the other day, and he talked about how $1 million a month is, or he was saying, sorry, $10,000 a month is still hustle money. Because, or sorry, $100,000 a month is still hustle money. There we go. $100,000 a month is still hustle money because that's around $1 million a year. And after 30 years, you'll have 30 million, excluding all expenses, excluding all taxes. And like, if you look at properties or buying apartment complexes or buying businesses, like $30 million, you know, let alone half of that, the cat's climbing up on the...
You fucker. Get out of there.
Right. You know, $30 million, you know, or 15 after taxes doesn't get you far at all. No. And that's after 30 years.
How much does a cargo ship cost?
Like 240 something million, like something crazy like that. Yeah. It's it really changes your perspective about what hustle money is versus what real money is. And like, of course, you have to start somewhere, and growth is growth. But you know, the vision has to be big, and it has to be way out there.
Another thing that Alex Hormozi was talking about was how you view success, right? Because there's two different perspectives. There's relative success and there's actual success, right? And so he was saying, if you have a podcast and you have 10 viewers, and the next month you have 15 viewers, right? You could view that as, well, I'm only reaching 15 people. That's fucking nothing. Right? Or you could view it as, well, I just grew my viewership by 50%. And that's a huge jump in a single month, right? Additionally, 15 people, that's a small room of people that you're reaching. And that's not a small feat. Like, most people don't have any outreach at all. Right? So if you can manage to connect with 15 people, that's awesome.
I think about this when I do like my basketball spin TikToks. It's like, I'll get a couple people commenting, and then there's one person that very consistently comments on my posts. And
it's me, dog.
You know, you and one other person. And, you know, I'll get somewhere between 300 and 800 likes a post. You know, when I look at these other TikTokers and they got well over 1 million, all this stuff like that.
Dude, but one of Grace's has over 250,000. It's
wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Blew the fuck up.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, congrats to her. That's super cool.
Yeah, making no money on it, but we're working on
it. I mean, you can, though. Like, you can go through the process and become an affiliate and all that stuff. But, you know, I try to think about it like, if I had, let's say, 3 people comment, and if I had those 3 people go out of their way in person to tell me they liked my content and they enjoyed me posting, like, that would make my day. You know what I mean? And so it might be just like 3, but it's still like an awesome, you can pull from that in positivity rather than in negativity, and just compare it to other people's stuff. You know what I mean? And that's a shift in mindset. And I think that shift in mindset also helps us as we're growing our businesses and growing our ideas, because it's like the small things and the small hurdles, you know, that other people don't necessarily get through, or we have a unique take on, or we have a unique approach to, really helps fuel us through the process, even if it's just little stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective. And I like that as perspective, especially because you can apply it to anything. Right. So I'll apply it to where we're at right now. It smells like cat shit in here.
I just
the cat just took a dump. It smells like cat shit. And like, I can already see the like bespoke podcasting studio that we'll have built in 2 years, right? Or 4, whatever. We'll be recording, and we'll be sitting at a booth, and we'll have a team of people mixing in a room or whatever. Right? But what's interesting is that podcast is going to be in the same series where we're sitting in a duplex on a couch with cat shit.
And the cat trying to climb the tripod.
Like it's relative, right? Because it could be way worse than this, right? Grace was showing us where she grew up this morning with all the fucking shacks and stuff that she used to spend time in. And there's like, in one of the Google photos of the Google truck driving by, there's a fucking drug deal happening on the road. You can watch it happen, right? It's a shithole. Like, we are so blessed and so fortunate to be where we are in the world right now. I was thinking about this the other day too. Totally off topic, but the vision that I had set out for my previous life, right, was become an engineer. That's such a hugely unobtainium goal for me, was to become an engineer and hold a stable job and build a family, right? And I think part of the reason I hate the 9-to-5 is because I've done that. I've checked that box. I've succeeded that goal. I have that life, right? I have a girlfriend. We're settling down. I have a stable 9-to-5, and I'm an engineer. Those are all the goals that I wanted to have checked, right? But I'm unfulfilled because I'm no longer progressing. And so long as I'm progressing, I'm happy, right? And so I'm not happy right now because I'm not progressing, and that fucking pisses me off, right? You know, and all the wealth and everything else that all comes in hand. But
to be fair, though, we are progressing. Like, we are building businesses, and we are making stuff happen, and we are growing. I mean, but I understand your point from the perspective of, I've hit all my goals that I set aside that I set for myself 5-8 years ago or whatever it is. Like, you know, it's now I'm kind of at the top of the hill, and it's like, I guess I got to climb another hill.
And it's a pity because I think of the person who I wanted to do this with, right? An ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
She wanted that was her goal, right? And that was my parents' goal for me. And so that was the track that I was on, but she got me excited about it, right? Because that's what she was doing. So that's what I wanted to do. And I was living for her and living to complete my parents' goals. And so I pursued those and she's no longer in my life, but I know that she's at this same point right now, but she's satisfied and she's fulfilled. And it's interesting to me because one of the other reasons I think that we're built different is because, another famous saying is that successful people don't have something that other people don't have. It's that they don't have something that other people don't have. They don't have the off switch. They don't have the option to stop.
Yeah.
They can't because it feels like their skin is crawling. It's like they're being eaten alive by fire ants. They hate it, right? And she took that away from me. She took that off button away from me. That relaxation, that sense of comfort, that sense of like you can just let it go and be happy, right? This stagnant stationary, you're okay sitting still, that's gone now, right? And I'm not taking it back. Like you can't pay me to take it back.
Yeah. Right? I think something that you said that reminded me too is I think what makes us unique in our pursuits of business and goals too is that we pursue our own goals. And I think that a lot of people stuck in the 9-to-5 or stuck in that mindset will focus on what other people want them to do, what a manager wants them to do, what a team lead wants them to do, what should I do for my coworker. And then additionally, they put no value on their time because a coworker comes up to them and is like, hey, like, can you weld this for me? Or can you help me out this weekend with a fence or whatever, right? And of course, you got to be a good neighbor and help people out here and there and stuff like that. But there's not even that thought of their own goals. They throw everything aside to help someone else's goal and to cater to someone else because that's what they do all day at their 9-to-5. So why wouldn't they live their life that way? Right. And the way we pursue businesses and focus ourselves is it's very oriented towards what are we trying to build and what are we trying to make happen, not what some other person wants, not even what an investor would like to see. This is our vision, and we're going to find the people around us to support that vision because this is the path we're going down. Right. And I think that's a very powerful thing that we share and have that a lot of other people don't necessarily have.
Yeah, I agree.